Three leadership lessons that every project manager should know. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management specialist. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How do I do that in practice? It can vary a lot because, of course, if I'm working individually with people, the kind of solution I provided will be different, or the kind of work that we go together will be very customized. But in general, is you have people that they have kind of imposter syndrome. They're lacking confidence in what to do. Sometimes they have the feeling they're putting a lot of work there, they don't see the results, they keep getting pressure from management, or they're facing challenges in a project because they simply are not sure if they're focusing the right things. So what I do with in all those different situations is help them to understand what they are, provide feedback, and organize together the next steps they need to take. Sometimes, of course, guiding them what would make more sense or not. And of course, some people are also helping, looking for changing a career to project manager, and I do help those people to maybe helping them to understand their transferable skills, helping them to understand, to prepare CVs, to prepare for interviews, and so on. Before I start, I think the lesson is leadership. You cannot talk about project management without talking about leadership. Although everything else in project management is important, you're going to see waterfall, agile, lean, finance, all those things are very important. But a lot of those things you see a lot of hard skills, and of course, leadership is always there, but are techniques, tools that you need to learn. And leadership it goes from personal development, perspective developing, emotional intelligence, self awareness, and so on. So this is a journey that, of course, takes time and require a lot of iteration there, so you can improve a lot of iteration in practice. That is so you can improve it there. So let's take a look here on three lessons that every project, three leadership lessons that every project manager should understand. The first one that I'm going to mention is prioritization. And why prioritization? Because a lot of times you see, when I talk about prioritization, before I talk about it's prioritization of your own time, but prioritization of your team's time. Meaning that I've seen in a lot of things, for example, a project manager in a company that I work on, he was chasing an issue in a project, and this issue was the cost of the issue was I don't know $300 at the time in a project with a total budget of at the time should be around $15 million, and he wasted basically an entire afternoon looking for information on SAP, going to talk with the procurement team, understanding the invoicing for $500. That's a very bad use of your own time because in a $15 million project, $500 will not make a difference. In other project, I see another project manager that in the time it was a big construction project, and this project had 7 different sites. And basically, because of several different reasons, there were 2 sites working, meaning the construction was running there, and there's the other 5 sites. The area was not released there, so there was not construction project going on there. And this specific project manager, he was working to solve issues from the fifth or seventh site that still would need to be released. And with a plane of issues that the construction team in the field, they needed support to make sure that they continue in progress there. What do you see again? Lack of priority. Why? Because basically, if you want to release what you can release, in this case was the first and the second site, they could not do that themselves. And I'm giving examples. In the beginning of my career, I did that myself when I was first promoted as a project manager. And I always liked numbers. So I was really taking and looking all the costs that I had for my project there in the system, going deeper into that. And sometimes I even dig deeper in costs that was say, sometimes it was a few hundred or few tens of dollars. And I did this in the early stages when I was as a project manager until I realized that was a simply waste of my time because the project that I was managing at the time had a budget of around $5 or $6 million. Well, what difference will make $100 in a project like that? None. So spending time looking for something like that it was avoiding me to take a look more in other important things. To put this in a very different analogy here, for example, if I ask you, do you do your bed? Do you make your bed every morning? And regardless the answer, I'll say to myself, yes, I make my bed every morning. And this is something important. It helps you to your discipline. It helps you to keep to have your first win of the day. And you see a lot of people talking about making the bed that will help you to be successful and so on. But does not matter. It's not nice to be disorganizing at home. So I start the day making my bed, and I do that most of the days. But if you are thinking, okay, because one of the things I want the house to look nice. So even though sometimes I make my bed after my kids they left to go to the school, then I come back, make my bed, and then before I come to work. What happen is if the house, let's make a very hypothetical situation, if the house is burning, but I still did not make my bed in the morning. Do you think making my bed is a priority in a situation like that? Of course not, because the house is burning. No one cares about the bed. So this is a very important item. No one cares about your bed if the house is burning. What I'm trying to say with that? Well, no one cares about the 50 or 100 euros I was trying to save in my project if there was plenty of other more pressing issues to be solved there. Because in the end, that will not make a difference considering the situation. And I've seen a lot of people um, ending up in this situation. And of course, that's why I want to bring a kind of extreme analogy here. If the house is burning, no one cares if you do not make your bed. No one cares if the house is not clean. Why I'm saying that? Again, a very powerful analogy to maybe very extreme. Because if the house is burning and you say, "Oh, but I'm going to go to make my bed before I take a look in the fire," no, you're not going to do that. I say, "Oh, let me clean the living room before I take a look in the fire." No, this is priority. The house is burning. Make sure everyone is safe. That's your priority in a situation like that. And I've seen a lot of project managers they missing that point. So how do you understand the prioritization in your project? Well, there's a very simple model that I created, and that's of course one of the things I discussed in my own development programs to showcase that the decision making and prioritization it's part of what you do with your schedule management, with your cost management, with your scope and change management, with your stakeholder management and the risk management. Because if you are doing taking care of those dimensions properly, and those dimensions are part of your routine, when a decision rises, when you have something in your table that you need to think about it, you are going to make a call. Should I look to my bed or should I start to evacuate the house because there's a fire? And might seem obvious, but it's not. I've seen, and I gave you three different examples here. Two talking about cost, another one talking about schedule. There's different examples I can mention about risks, stakeholders. That you see that people they get so many things in their table, so many problems, or maybe so many inputs as a project manager that you're going to get there that they are not able to prioritize. And here, and in these examples here, I mentioned three examples for the project manager time. So you need to learn how to prioritize your own time. What you can do. One of the things that you can do is plan your day ahead. One day before, or preferably you do it for the week on Sunday, or if you want to prepare Friday afternoon, whatever. It's important that you have an overview in the next week what needs to get done, and then you have a list of what are your five top priorities of the day that you want to achieve, because that gives you clarity and that's avoid that you keep thinking, and that's avoid then if there's a fire you say, oh, but I have all those things that I need to check, and it needs to be five, because in the past myself I also did a very big to-do list for everything that I need to do, and which is fine to have that list because it helps you to take out stuff from your mind, but you're not going to be able to do a full something like that in one day. So you need to understand based on your project What are the most relevant items that you need to take a look that will influence your timeline, your cost, the scope of your project, and of course, when I talk about scope and change, that also includes quality because that they go together. About your stakeholders and of course about your risk. And this goes in exactly the same direction with your team because a lot of times you have a team meeting there and you start to discuss several different topics that you might have in a project. If it's a product development, depending on the type of product, you can have 10, 15 different suppliers. You can have different manufacturing sites, different team members across the globe. Then you end up starting to discuss some items. And very often, what happened is you discuss some item with someone, then he say, "Oh, I can do that for next week." Then maybe 5 minutes later, you are in another discussion. Then the same person ends up with another action item, and very soon, if you do not pay attention, this person end up with 10 items in their to-do list, which is fair because those are things that they need to do anyway. But you need to realize that they're not going. Very likely, they cannot do everything at the same time. So it's up to you as a project manager to come up with an understanding the team what's the priority to do it. And of course, when I'm saying all those items here, a lot of those prioritization setting come from the discussions with your team. You are not the commander that's going just to sitting there in the iron throne saying for people what to do. You ask questions, say, hey, what's the impact if we don't do that? What's more critical, these or that for the product? What should we do next? And based on that, you start discussions with your team to gain more insights. And you also, because you are the project manager, you are always thinking on those dimensions: time, cost, scope change, stakeholders, and risk. So you also help your team to focus on the right things. I've seen people uh, make pushing their team members to focus in very small stuff. For example, in a company that I worked on in the past, the company was facing finance challenges. This is more than 10 years ago, and basically the company even sold the business unit, so it's not a secret for anybody that the company had a very big trouble with their cash flow for all the projects. And the finance director, the CFO, the country CFO, he did not know how to do it, how to handle it. So he started to take a look on the cost that the company was paying for renting the computer. At the time, I do not know why, the company had a strategy that they would rent the notebooks. No, renting a notebook at the time should cost about 100. I'm talking about this 2013, 2014, should cost around $150 there. And of course, you can imagine, more notebooks you have, higher will be the amount that you need to pay for the company that you are renting on. What happened was the following. He started to count the number of notebooks that we had allocated for the projects. So, for example, in one of my projects, I had 15 notebooks. Why? Because I have 15 people working the team, including myself, a planning that was reporting to me, including site manager, buyer on site, safety, and all the other functions that you have there. And you end up with 15 notebooks. So every month, this guy would start a discussion. Do you really need 15 notebooks in your project? And my point is, okay, you might say, yeah, you can reduce it. So what? I'm talking about projects from budgets from 5 million to some projects that the budget was 25, 30 million dollars. If you tell me that in 1 year project, maximum 2 year project, you are going to save $100, or let's exaggerate here, make $1,000 per month. In 2 years, you're going to save 24K. Does it make any difference for a $30 million project? No. So this guy basically what he was saying, "Well, let's make sure that the bed everything looks nice, but the house is burning, my friend. No one fucking cares about the bed. You're setting on the wrong priorities for your team." This is very basic and very fundamental. So in this discussion that I mentioned that you end up with a team member having 10 different things to do, you need to select what's the priority for him to work first. So prioritization is very important. And you need to understand here that to have a good decision making and prioritization model that you can use, you need to be aware from the dimensions of the project. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to decide and prioritize if you do not understand cost, if you do not understand time, if you do not understand scope, stakeholders, and risk. The secondly, the second one that I want to mention is handling issues, and that comes very often with kind of hand to hand with the prioritization. Let me, before making my analogy again, let me tell you a story that it happened a few months ago with a junior project manager that I've seen doing the work there. They were developing a design, and they had a lead time for the design. I believe I don't know 5 6 months lead time to complete the design for a product. In the middle of this progress, there around 3 months after they started the design, the design team come back and say we cannot make the deadline for the design. And by the way, we need another 7 months. And then, of course, you can imagine that was a lot of discussion going on, management involvement, and you start to escalation mode. And basically, he comes to a meeting and he asks for advice how to present it for the escalation because that would be very hard and so on. He was new, junior project manager, and he started to he put his presentation in the screen, and he started with a lot of root cause. Why the delay is like that? Because we did a poor estimation. Because, and there was a long list of a lot of sad items why the estimation was wrong and why they would need another 7 months. My only feedback for him was the following: if you go that for an escalation meeting, they are going to eat you alive there. Because first, very difficult that you're going to tell me that the initial lead time for something is 6 months. You work 3 months in something, then you tell me that you need another seven. Or either you mean that you did not do anything these 3 months, or something is very wrong there. And the second, in a situation like that, no one is focusing on the root cause right now. Because it's very nice that you come and keep discussing all the sad story, but can you do? What's the real situation to try to put the project back on track? That's what matters the most. So when you are handling issues, what's the most important thing that you do there? First, you look for a containment action. In the case in the burning house example here, if you most of the place, at least around the world, I cannot say everyone because in every country because I don't know. After you have a fire, a big fire like that, usually there's a root cause investigation to understand what caused the fire, which is very fair because also, of course, depending on what you understand, it also helps you to have preventive actions for the future. And it's a very important to, of course, understanding the root cause of any problem, because what you want to avoid that you keep having the same type of problem often and often. That's why you investigate the root cause to solve the problem. But when do you investigate the root cause for a fire? Just after you control the fire, or just after the fire is done or the fire is gone there, meaning that it was fully extinguished there. And why I'm saying that this is important? Because in the case that I was mentioning, this project manager, he was going for an escalation meeting. So the fire was burning the entire house. He go to the escalation meeting and he started to explain why the fire started. Oh, because someone was cooking and then he went to check the outside. He forgot the panels in the oven. The oven was, I don't know, it was turned up and then start burning. Like, no one cares at this stage. Again, it's very important to understand the root cause. But what do you need to do in a case like that of a big delay? Understand where you are, what's the estimation or extra time that you needed, and why. And then you need to have, of course, much more details than just saying I need another 7 months, because and give a list of a very big list of a sad story. And you need to have some type of actions to understand why. Sorry, you need to have a list of actions to understand how you shorten this time, how you can look to come back to come back to on track. The companies or the organizations, they are going to pay you to solve problems. They don't pay you to come with sad stories why the problem happened, with a root cause investigation, which by the way, the root cause investigation he presented, that was but just a bunch of bullshit there. The root cause was not even there, and you could see the root cause was not there because of the type of things that they were there. So if you are handling those issues of delays, cost deviation, what do you need to do? First, find out how we are going to control it, how to control the fire. So if you are working in automotive business, there's a line stop. What you do, you're going to look for a countermeasure that you can put in place to come back to the production and can be restarted. Of course, you need then to understand the root cause to make sure that you avoid this kind of stuff in the future. But your first step is never just looking for the root cause and keeping discussing root cause because sometimes root cause investigation will take time. You also need to have some view in what's going on, what's going to how it's going to affect the project, what kind of timeline that we need in this root cause investigation, what kind of actions that we need in place right now to mitigate this delay, to minimize this impact. That's very important there. And yes, again, root cause analysis is very important, but not in the middle of the fire. First, extinguish the fire or put at least under control. And then you start to look, okay, what's going on or what kind of root cause that you have there. Very important. And of course, if you look for any type of problem solving, you want to find a good root cause. That's not about not finding the root cause. If you look for lean, all the good practices, they say you need to find the root cause and make sure that you stop the root cause, so otherwise you are going to have the problem. The thing is, depending on the situation, if that's a very pressing issue, like if you have a quality issue in your product and the customer needs the parts, you're not going to stop the line and say, by the way, customer, you're going to miss your entire production there because I need to find the root cause. You put a countermeasure in place. Say, I'm going to do 100% inspection because to make sure that you don't get any issue there. So you are going to get only good parts. And in parallel, I'm going to proceed with the production and looking for the root cause. So that's a way to do it. Make sure that in the middle of the fire, you are not trying to investigate how the fire started here. This is a very important thing that you need to think about it. And of course, the last point I want to share with you, it's a bit how you can think about engaging with your team. And what I'm talking about engaging with your team. There's very different ways you can try to engage with your team. What's very important, if you have been following me for a while, you've seen me talking about agile, lean, the mindset, and so on. What's important when you're engaging with your team? That first of all, you as a project manager, you understand that different people who require different ways of engagement there. For example, I have here different behaviors, so you can the behavior style that you can help to influence people. If you have a very junior member, he or she might need a bit more guidance in the beginning. If you have a very senior manager, very senior member in your team, well, you need to give him or her more freedom to work. So, as a project manager, your goal is not there to tell people what to do. Your goal is make sure that people understand what's the clear and what's the project goal, what's the clear common goal that you need to work on. Make sure that those people are aligned and they work in the same direction. How do you do that? Usually, the easiest way is having discussions with your team, asking questions to your team. So instead of coming to a meeting and tell people what they need to do there, so again, if you have a very junior team member, this person might need a little bit more guidance. So tell them what to do in the beginning might be a good thing, but for the long run, it cannot be like that. And sometimes, yes, if it's in the example that I mentioned, it's a fire situation there. What you're going to tell people, you tell people evacuate the building. because that's not a discussion what we should do. That's already the instruction. It's a given a situation like that. But excluding those very extreme cases where you need to give a very direct instruction there, your approach should be how you're going to work and how you're going to collaborate with your team. And this is very important that you understand there. So handling your team is not telling your team what to do. I've heard it from from colleagues that working with different people there. One of one colleague at one of the places that I've worked on, he told me that at some point the project manager in this case was a senior guy, seated by his side, look at him and say, you are going to do this right now." And of course, what was his reaction? "I'm not going to do it right now. Things does not work like that." So instead of getting someone in the team to help him to put the work, to find a way so you can work together, you're just pushing people away. So people will find excuses why they cannot do the work for the project. So being a project manager is not only pushing people, is working to make sure that you can find alignment there. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is just asking questions, reasoning with your team, asking them to explain the things. What would be the best? What would be the very important step that you should take next? Who should do that? Why is that important? Can you help me to understand this? Can you please explain me this? Let me just rephrase it to see if I understood. All those types of things are things that you can do while working with your team. That usually they tend to bring you a much more positive result than just sitting there and telling people what they need to do. Because as Steve Jobs used to say, it does not make sense to hire intelligent people, capable people, and tell them what to do. If you're working a team and you have a team of specialists, depending on what you're working, you have a multidisciplinary team, why you as a project manager want to tell what your team should do? Because if you have someone that's the specialist, the expert in their knowledge area, why you're going to tell them what to do? You should ask them what the team should do because they are the expert. So having this changing your mindset that you are the project manager, you're taking all the decision, it's very important. Project management is not about taking all the decisions. Project management is not about telling people what to do. This is the majority of the case you are going to see those examples as bad leadership, as micromanagement. So what you want is find the balance to work with your team because in the end then you are going to make sure that your team is open, then they are more open. You are going to develop better relationships, you're going to develop trust. People have the courage to step up and tell what should be done, tell you the issues and how you are going to work together, how the team is going to work together to convey to a solution that will help to achieve the project goal. And basically, that goes for everything. If you're the project manager, even if you're using a predictive approach, a waterfall approach, if you want to call it, you should never create a timeline and come and tell your team that's your timeline. If you do that, people just resist. They are going to find ways why your timeline is not good. And I'm pretty sure that they are going to find ways why your timeline is not good. Do the other way around. What I do in a project like that, using a waterfall approach, I create a structure of the timeline and I have a discussion with the team. Hey, dear team member, here, dear designer, we need to design it here. How long do you think we need here? Oh, I need 5 months for the design. I put 5 months. Oh, if we put 5 months, that's what's happened here with our timeline. Dear quality engineer there, what do you need for quality here? Can we change something here? Hey, the designer, can we do something here? And then we tweak what do we need to make sure that we can do this quality. I need this step to be make sure that's confirmed before. So I confirm the predecessors and the successors of my timeline. I get team estimation and we discuss about the timeline, which helps a lot. the team to gain understanding what needs to be done, to gain alignment, because if people tell you 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever they're estimating there, meaning that they are also committing themselves to execute something. So it's very important. Of course, I'm pretty sure that you are going to need to adapt whatever timeline that you're going to create it, but you should never create a timeline by yourself. Even for a business case, it's important that you kind of review and discuss it. You can have very interesting discussions, even for example with a designer. I've had that in the past. Is going to say why this is so expensive. The design should not be that expensive because this and that. And then the basically the buyer or the purchasing, the procurement or whoever person that you have in the team, you say, oh, this is too expensive. I'm going to go back to the supplier. And you have all those discussions as a team. Working as a team will always bring you benefit. That's all, what's going to help you to deliver value in your project. And remember, I always mention that the ultimate goal of any project is delivering value. And the way to do that is with proper leadership. And again, you're going to need all the other things, all the, if you want to call hard skills. You're going to need to know waterfall. You're going to need to know agile, Scrum, Kanban, MS project sometimes. Other times you're going to need to know, you need to know finance, lean, and all the other things you need to know. But the leadership is understanding how to use those things. Understand that you don't use those things by yourself. You use those things with your team, and then you can gain most of the value. Your goal is not to be the smartest person in the room. Your goal, and that should never be your goal, because if you're the smartest person in the room, that means likely you need to go for another room, because then you can learn, you can grow. Your goal is working with your team to achieve something. So your target is have a clear goal, make sure that your team is aligned how to do that. And this alignment can come from different ways, but you're not going to get the best from your team if you just keep sitting there telling them what to do there. Don't forget here, comment here in this video, what did you learn? This is very important. It helps me to understand how well my message was perceived there. And of course, if you have questions, you can also comment there. I'm always open. It's always nice to hear from your side there what what else I can help you to support. Because in the end, if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. And of course, don't forget to follow me on YouTube, on Instagram for more content. There's more videos on YouTube every week. On Instagram, I have also daily posts with a Q&A box where you can ask all project management related questions. Thank you and see you soon. Bye.